Hi, everybody. Good morning. I know that our four participants from North Macedonia can't make it today because they have a national holiday. So it seems like we're kind of a small group today. Um, but I'm very happy that you all came and that you all came on time. I will let you know that I'm going to be on mute most of this session today because there's a lot of work going on in my office today, so a lot of noise here. Um, I would like to present Jozsef Kadar, my coworker. He's going to be talking today about, Joseph, do you want to, where did my page go? So I'll get the, here,
Yes, yes,
about
yes.
the renewable energies role in the transition to zero carbon electricity sectors. Joseph, do you want to introduce yourself?
Yes, yes, yes. Good morning. But before I start, I would like to ask everyone to switch on the camera because I see names and it's a bit disturbing that I don't see faces.
I think that a lot of them are in office environments where they can't really turn on their
Ah,
cameras.
okay.
So you'll have to get used to just seeing black squares. Sorry, Joseph. But
Okay,
I do
okay.
request that if and when you guys ask questions at the end of the presentation or during the presentation, you do switch on your cameras then. And also don't forget to say which country you're from. Oh, hi, Hike. Thank you.
Hi. Okay, thank you so much. So, as Avigal said, I'm Jozsef Kadar. I'm originally from Hungary, and I environmental scientist. And also I'm learned about energy security in Azerbaijan. I'm doing currently my PhD at the Haifa University on energy transition and social innovation. And today I would like to invite you a small journey about how Israel could decarbonize their energy system. And for this, I made for you a presentation that I will share now. Okay. Okay. So let's start it. If you have any question, you can ask immediately or waiting for, I don't know what was previously the role, but I'm really happy to answer a question immediately if you have anything. So who we are, I would like to talk about our center is the CRIC. It's a Center for Renewable Energy and Energy Conservation. And here in the right side, our director, Dr. Tarak Abu Hamed, who established our center at the Arava Institute in 2018. We are doing lot of things. For example, one of the things what we are doing is the Mashav Renewable Energy course, but we have also cooperating with the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration from United States. We have research on biogas, on energy poverty, different energy security aspect, water energy nexus, and also we are working on social acceptance of different renewable energy technologies. And we offer internship for students. So if you have anyone who wants to join us for next semester or after it, we are more than happy to host you in our institute. But now let's start our presentation. When we talk about energy transition, it will be all the time renewable energy transition. It's very important to emphasize because energy transition can be from fossil to nuclear, but when I'm talking about energy transition, it will be like fossil/nuclear towards renewable energy. The energy transition, as you know, it's nothing else than growth and prosperity without petroleum and uranium. This idea, the energy transition, it came across the whole human history. We know it when, for example, only we see the 20th centuries when we started to use coal, then we started to use uh, oil and natural gas, and then nuclear power. And because the scientific community, politicians, and citizens realized that we live a time where the climate change is affected our civilization, our lifestyle. We have to change our habit, our energy sources. So we have to turn to the renewable energy, which is not a new things, because if you see the history of the humanity, we used it in the past. When we see the Dutch windmills, for example, or how the Roman Empire used the solar energy to heating their rooms. So it was there, but as the population grew, we needed more energy, and the technology wasn't appropriate to provide energy for us from renewable. That's why we used more and more fossil fuel. But now, as the technology is developing, we can turn again to the renewable energy. Energy transition, it's very important, the culture. For example, I usually say I'm researching Germany, and they have, for example, as energy transition was born, the civil society was very strong. They said that, okay, we don't need nuclear energy already in 90, after Chernobyl. They said that, okay, we don't need nuclear, and they started to discuss how they can phase out it. But obviously there are some country, for example, in Poland, it's very hard to phase out, for example, for coal, because their whole economy, whole society is based on coal, for example. And I usually say that it's a big ship, the society in the country, and to turn that ship, it's very hard from one day to the other. And also the culture habit, like here, for example, in the Middle East, we can say that you can use, for example, natural gas. It's very easy, but for example, when we go to the Bedouin community, there is no culture, for example, for a natural gas. And also infrastructure we don't have there. They have the infrastructure, for example, of grid technology, for biogas, for solar energy. The energy transition, when we talk, we have to talk about who are the drivers, what they help us to drive this energy transition. I usually say we have three drivers of the energy transition. One, obviously, is the market-driven energy transition. In that case, the energy transition is usually big scales, and the communication with the citizen is not appropriate, and also not so sufficient. So there are a lot of opposition from the population and the citizen. Then they don't want those kind of projects. But usually those projects are huge, and usually it's very fast they are ready. Meanwhile, if we see the energy transition driven by the government, it's relatively slowly. It's middle size. Sometimes they do it a huge size of large scale, but usually those projects are medium size. They talk more about the citizen, obviously, because every 4 years the citizens are going to vote. So they try to convince the citizen, but still there are sometimes there is a opposition against those kind of projects. And the last one, the citizen-driven energy transition, when we as a citizens from Ukraine, citizens from Hungary, citizens from Moldova, they say that, okay, we would like to create, for example, a renewable energy cooperatives. We put together the money, we build the facilities, and all the income which is coming from this renewable energy project, we invest to our community, and then we develop our community. energy transition in Israel. When you think about Israel, it's usually you think that it's, wow, a lot of sun, 100% that these guys over in the desert, they use only renewable energy, mainly sun. And yes, when you go to the Google and put Israel energy, 100% that the first three picture will be this very famous Ashalim tower or our kibbutz next to where Avigal is now. You can see the solar field. But the reality is not this one. The reality that in Israel, we still, our society running on fossil fuel. I will tell you in the next slide which kind of fuel, but really that's the real picture. The coal, still the coal, and the natural gas. And the renewable energy, as I showed here in the previous picture, it's a very, very small share of the energy mix. So energy numbers. I mark here two important dates. 2015, it's important because that time was the Paris Agreement, as you know, and we usually comparing the energy statistic at that point, what we developed from Paris from 2015. And you can see here a very interesting information, like how Israel phasing out coal. And you can see that even from 2010, where almost 60% was the electricity generation came from coal, and the rest came from gas and this diesel, and this very, very small amount from renewable, how it's changing. But by 2015, it's dropped almost 15%. And meanwhile, the same amount of natural gas increasing we can see. And also, happily, we can see small 2-3% of renewable energy development in the energy mix. Meanwhile, in 2020, we can see how almost 20% of the coal usage dropped, and how the gas is really, really dominant in the energy mix. And we can see the renewable energy is increasing, but not really, really high. We can say that around today, 7% of the from the electricity generation we get from renewable energy, which is very, very small amount. If you remember the two slides earlier where we saw these huge facilities, and you can ask, okay, but if we have so much sun, why don't we harness it? Why we use steel coal, almost 30%, and why only increasing dramatically the gas and the renewable doesn't? I hope in the end we will get this kind of question from you. So electricity consumption, we can see here that how it's changed. And obviously from 1990, it has a dramatically increasing. There are many reasons. One reason, obviously, is the population growth. We see a huge population growth from 1990, when the so-called Aliyah started, when the Soviet Union collapsed, and many Jews from the former Soviet Union arrived to Israel. This was one of the main boom, I would say. And also the electrification, where Israel put infrastructure, developed more and more infrastructure to electrify their system. And you can see, like 2014, when the new electric vehicle arrived to Israel, so a huge demand came, and it will increase because of the electrification, and also the population is continuing growing. We can see we don't see here in the chart, but there is a drop in 2020, 2019, when the COVID hit the country, because obviously we didn't use so much the economy. We had lockdown, and even we had lockdown, the electricity consumption didn't go up when we were at home. And as might you know, in Israel, we use a lot of time air conditioning because the climate is so hot. And even that case, we didn't see a huge increase of electricity consumption because the economy went down so much. Okay, what do we need for a successful renewable energy transition? I wrote here 3 things I think we need, but if you have other things, please let me know, even now. I think we need society. We need a society which accept and have a knowledge about renewable energy, what is climate change, how you can use it, and what is the benefits. We need a policy from the government which support the renewable energy transition in Israel or all around the world, which sometimes we see the opposite. For example, in Hungary, there is a law from 2010 that the government said that you cannot put wind turbine in the country because it's ugly. And that was the reason, basically. But we all know that the real reason, because Hungary and a few other Central European countries want to build a nuclear power plant. And as we know that sometimes, not sometimes, but nuclear and renewable energy, they cannot really like each other and put together in the same energy system. And the last, the technology.
И последний пункт – это технология. Это то, что нам необходимо.
You moved into the English channel by accident. Veronica or Anna, I don't know which one of you that was.
Okay. May I go? Continue?
Yes, continue.
Okay. So we are going now and discuss these 3 drivers, what we need for a successful energy transition. So society. Obviously, we need education for the people, for the citizens. In Israel, I will talk general and also Israel. So you will get a clear picture of what's going on in Israel, and you will see where we are and why we are there. So education, we have many universities, higher education institute in Israel, which give degrees about environmental science, environmental studies, environmental engineer, etc., etc. These are very important, but the most important things, what we not really see in Israel, that the awareness from the government. When we see, for example, we open the TV, obviously there is now discussion about climate change because we had the Glasgow Climate Summit, but generally there is no such a advertisement which says that, okay, the renewable energy helps you to save energy and fight climate change. And it's very, very important because, for example, there is a city, it's called, I forgot the name, but it's next to us in Tel Aviv. And it was very interesting. They put all the renewable energy infrastructure on the roof of the school and during the summer break. And when students arrive, the the parents didn't want to allow the kids to go to school because they were afraid that the kids will get some X-ray and radiation. So the municipality had to meet with the parents and tell them that it's no, there is no radiation, everything is okay, and your kids, when they will go home, they will be healthy, and you don't have to afraid that something will happen. And it's very important, the education, to explain everything. And if there is no proper education, like here in Israel, you have many misunderstanding about the energy transition, and I think it's a huge barrier for a successful energy transition. Research, it's in Israel also, as you know, that Israel is a startup nation, and also Israel emphasize that that research is crucial to find new way of new technologies to fight climate change, and this is somehow, it's a very strong leg of the Israeli society, who try to drive this energy transition from the bottom to the up, and explain to the ordinary citizens, B, for the decision makers, that why climate change and energy transition is important. Also, citizen involvement, such as community energy, prosumerism. In Israel, the citizen involvement is very low. The next slides, I will show to you some graphs, which are very interesting. Meanwhile, in Europe, for example, in Belarus, Ukraine, you can see few new so-called community energy projects which are developing or under development. Also in Europe, if you see this energy package, I think the third one, they are talking about prosumerism, how you as a citizen can produce your own energy. And also, I will show some graph why it's important in public awareness and social acceptance for the renewable energy technology. Again, in Europe, it's more and more the people, the citizen they know what is renewable energy, they know what is, why is it good, and they see the benefits of it. Obviously, it's again, there is a huge gap between East Europe and West Europe, but still the whole as a Europe, they more and more into renewable energy. Meanwhile, in Israel, it's a bit difficult to understand why the society is not really involved in this kind of project. So we, last year, during the COVID, we had a chance to make, I think, the biggest survey in Israel about social awareness and acceptance on renewable energy technologies. So we did around 1,500 samples survey, and I would like to share with you some interesting fact what you will see. So the demographic information, we see that almost 90% of the respondents were Jewish, 10% Arabs, and it was very interesting when we got the answer that half of the people were asked, which is I think it's very interesting. If you see the next graph, what I will share you, because now we ask them, so for example, what kind of renewable energy they know, and as a European, you think that it's very trivial, everybody knows renewables, but no, it's not true. Obviously, many people said that solar, it's obvious, because if I go out, every house we have solar heater, so they said that it's okay. The wind is less, you can see, but I surprised that that the biomass was so small. They said that they not really heard about them, and it's less than 4%. And also the hydro wave, I understand that in Israel we don't have river, like such river like Danube or Tisa or other huge rivers in Europe, but still, for example, the wave energy we have across the coast, we have sea, so the wave energy would be for me obvious that, wow, people would say, wow, yes, wave energy, I know about it, and I found interesting. So Amar, but as you see, no, they not really. The next what we ask, and it's also interesting, that for example, we ask them that do they know what is the country goals or for renewable energy and climate change? Because as I said, the awareness in Israel, it's not so so well developed or deep. So we asked them, and we really surprised that more than 5% they do not know anything about what are the goals, what are the priority in Israel, which was a bit shock the first time. Also, we asked some standard, national regulation standard, and you can say 90%, more than 90% in Israel, they don't know anything. And that's why I told you that the education here in Israel, it's very, very different direction, not really focusing on climate change and the importance of the energy transition. And here, like the last question, what we asked, like, do you think you have influence on decision making regarding state policies? And it's also really interesting that they said that no. And I asked myself that, okay, if you say no, what is the topic what you are discussing with your not mayor but representative in your parliament, for example? If not, it's not important. I don't know what is the status in your country, but I would be more than happy to hear, because it's very interesting to comparing those facts. The policies. For a successful energy transition, we need a policy which really support this transition. Israel has started. It's very, 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 and very slowly how they started. Now after when the government changed, there is a hope, and people are hoping. You can see how small the target and the real value of the renewable energy sources. Like, for example, in 2016, we had only 2%, 2.5% renewable energy, which is nothing. And they wanted to 2010 to get 20%. I tell you 10%, sorry. I tell the truth, it's only 8%. And I don't know how we will reach, like, for 20, 30, 70%, because the speed, but the government, the previous government, hopefully this government will be a bit better, the speed of this transition, hopefully a bit faster and stronger, but what we see now, it's a bit sad for us. Okay, what is the target? So also the Israel, it's not really discussing, for example, the energy efficiency, which is crucial in Europe. When we talk about energy transition, we all know that there are one things is the technology, renewable energy technology, and also the energy efficiency. Here in Israel, it's not really discussed the energy efficiency. They said that they want to save by 2030 80 terawatt hour for energy efficiency. I made for you a small graph like how the Israeli renewable energy sector developed and what were the main point. The first of all, the main things I tell the history of the Israeli energy transition. Let's call this figure. The first, what we have to understand, the Israeli energy transition, renewable energy transition started around 1973. We all know we had the oil crisis, and till then everything run by the cheap oil. But then we had to reply for this uncertain time. So Israel immediately changed their energy system and they started to use coal, which ran till 2000s, and it was, as you saw in the chart, the previous chart, it was even sometimes more than half of the energy generation was based by coal. But there are few main things which gave some hope for the renewable energy transition researcher, entrepreneurs that said that, wow, Israel is pioneer and it could do amazing things. One thing in 1980 happened. The first in the Middle East, I would say even the world, they brought a regulation about domestic solar water heaters, and they said that every new residential building, they had to put solar heater, water heater, and even they, as you read the text, in 2012, they said that obviously now if you come to Tel Aviv and Israel, they started to build these sky rockets, which like 20, 30, even more level high. And they say that, okay, obviously you cannot put down the system because there is technological barrier, but you have to do two things. One, you have to put a heat pump for down, and that has to use by the whole building. And also, as you see that if above 27 meters, you have to install also solar heater, but only from the first 7 floors under the roof. So still we have, and we can see many of them. And till I would say 2010, 2005, Israel was the pioneer and the most domestic solar water heater we had in the country and in the MENA region. And it's interesting that how when they started to build these huge houses and flats and office building, Cyprus became the leader of the domestic solar heaters, and we became like the second and the third only. So 2004, it was a very important step in the history of the renewable energy and decarbonizing the electricity sector in Israel, because the government introduced some subsidies for renewable energy, mainly wind and solar energy. Then 2009, the government also introduced the feed-in tariff and also showed some renewable energy, introduced the renewable energy targets and started to promote the energy transition. We see from the numbers that those so-called promotion, and the target, it wasn't so successful, and it's not so successful because still, as I said, by 2020, it's only 9% of the renewable energy in the whole electricity productions. Then in 2010, a year later, it was very interesting because they started to integrate the renewable energy into the electricity sector, which is main things, because then it was really locally and not the renewable energy, mainly solars and wind, and they didn't put to the grid system. And that was 2000 when they really integrated to the system. Then 2013, they also developed the net metering regulation framework. And we can see also, as you go up, as the share of renewable energy is increasing. And 2016, they started to introduce this communal care sharing programs, which is very important to fight climate change in Israel. And also the 2017, we had the first solar PV action, and 2019, we reached, and Israel is very proud that we had the 4% of renewable energy share. You can also see here that how the renewable energy generation is changing. You can see basically in 2009-8, there I don't want to call it solar boom, but the 2008 they started to increase the share of solar energy, and 2016 there was a huge development of wind energy. But still today, if you see the share, 90% of solar energy coming and 10% wind energy. And it's very important that why we have so small amount of wind share, and the reason it's very simple. First of all, the war, because the constant war, and it's if the rocket coming and hit one of the wind turbine, it could disturb our electricity generation, and the government doesn't want. Also, we are in, as you know, all the winter and spring, there is bird migration, and we are living in the migration routes, and many politician researcher says that we cannot put the solar wind turbines in the routes of the migration, bird migration routes, and the other people says that it's ugly. So that's the three main reason why it's not so popular in Israel also. How does the electricity sector regulations and works in Israel? It's very important to understand when we talk about decarbonizing the electricity system in Israel, because what you have to know, it's Israel, it's a monopoly. The monopoly of the Israeli electricity company. They do generation, transmission, and distribution. There are some Israel independent power producers, which is like 5–10%, but they have to sell it to the Israeli electric company. So that's a huge monopoly for the company. There is a reform to divide the Israeli electricity company into three sectors: generation, transmission, and distribution. But you know, as Europeans and who work in the European energy community, and you have also the regulation that these three sectors has to separate. Yeah, the whole regulation is going by the Israeli Electricity Authority, The Electricity Authority work together with the Ministry of Finance, Energy and Environmental Protection. They bring the law implementing Israel, as I said, Israel Electricity Company generate, transmission, distribute the energy, and then it's coming to the consumer, residential, industrial. And when we talk about Israel Electricity Corporation and Israel, we have to talk about Palestine also, because Israel also sell electricity for Palestine in Gaza and West Bank also. The next one is the technology, and it's I put here this 4 article, and the reason why I put, because many times people believe that technology is like a god and they can solve everything in the earth. As you see, for example, they say like American innovators, not regulators, will solve climate change. And also 7 technology will solve climate crisis. Those are the, I say usually that the belief, they so believe the technology and they forgot the society, that it's sometimes it's scary for me that we give the big credit and we forgot that, okay, but at the end of the day, you as a citizen has to use the technology and you have to change your behavior. You have to educate yourself, and that's, without that you cannot succeed. In Israel, we have 12, almost 13 gigawatt installed capacity. We have 16 power stations. These are power stations. It's like co-generations, dual purpose. Some of them is using gas. Some of them using coal. And obviously there are only some of them running only on gas. As you see, 16 power station. The transmission line, it's almost 5.5 hundred kilometer, and there is high and ultralight voltage transmission grid, and this electricity, what the electricity company generate, this almost 30 gigawatt installed capacity, it's going to almost 3 million customers. Here the map, you can see that one is in the south, one power plant, and mainly the others in the central region of Israel. And many of them in the coastline. Because of the historical reason, this is mainly those run on coal, and because it was easy to ship here the coal and not inside the country, so that's why all the power plant is here. Okay, what's going on in operational and planned renewable energy project? I made for you a small table. We can see like the operational wind power plant in Israel. We have 3 main places where we have. It's very, very small installed capacity. It's around 30 megawatt. Also, there are 2 places where they would like to build more wind power. They are bigger size, but honestly only one at the Golan High was signed a PPA, power purchase agreement, which helps to develop the project earlier, and this is the finance part of the whole agreement and the project. Also, we have, as I said, and I showed in the picture, that there are solar power plant, CSP, and photovoltaic. We have, you can see the solar towers. Shalom, one is 110 megawatt, the other is 120 megawatt. Then we have two big photovoltaic power plant, Ashalim and Zalim. Zalim is the biggest, 120. Israel also wants to put one more CSP, like concentrated solar power plant, in the south of Israel, a new one which is very, very big, 30 megawatt, and this is only tendering, so hopefully soon we get the result, and then we can see after 5 years that it will run and we will use less gas. We have, surprisingly, we have some hydroelectric power plant, but they are very, very small. Like you can see, like 1 megawatt, 3.5 megawatts. So those are like nothing, but we have, and those are mainly in the north of Israel. They want also there is a huge hydroelectric pump storage power plant. It's a Gilboa. It's also up north in Israel, and it's 300. They also want to, and I will talk later about storage, new hydro pump in the south of Israel also. When I say Gilboa and storage and water, it's everything is here in up north in Israel. Okay, so storage. The storage energy system, as you know that there are 5 types of, there is mechanical systems such as pump hydro energy storage, compressed air, falling wells, and flywheel energy storage. We have also chemical energy storage when we talk about storage technologies, general, electrochemicals, electrical system, like as a supercapacitor and capacitator, and thermal system. In Israel, we have in the Arava region, where the kibbutz and the institute is located, we are working on several storage technology. And for example, just a week ago, 2 weeks ago, and one of the compressed air energy storage company opened their facilities. It's called Augwind, and now they can store 5 megawatt electricity in their storage system. We have also failing and weights and flywheel energy storage, and hopefully we will develop more in the Arava region. We are also, there are some projects which thinking to put hydrogen storage, use it, and also the batteries, it's more and more popular in Israel. It's to reach 30% of the renewable by 2030, Israel require around 8 gigawatt hour of energy storage. One part of this 8 gigawatt hour of energy storage is coming from the pump storage, but also, as I said, there are other technologies such as compressor, flywheels, hydrogen. We have at the north a huge oil refinery. It's called Bazan, and they have started to develop hydrogen technology in these facilities. One moment, I have to drink. Sorry. In Israel, we are a startup nation, and it's very important that the startup nations has a sector. It's called clean energy tech, and I mark here with yellow how the energy storage companies, startups are really involved in this innovation field. You can see in the map we have like generation, transmission and distribution, consumer and storage, and one of the biggest share is the storage. And these are really important drivers of the Israeli energy transition, because they really bringing up more and more new technologies, and they are going to the ministries, they are going to different investors, and many of them they get a lot of money, and they can do a lot of good pilot project, and then they can prove that, wow, this technology is the best, and then the government will realize that, wow, if we have this super storage technology, maybe we need less what is this natural gas power plant. It's very also interesting that if you see here the home biogas, it's usually you will see with my colleague will give a tour for you. I saw in the program, and
yes, tomorrow they'll
will
get a tour with that includes also a little explanation about home biogas.
Yes, it's very important that it's the founder was a student from us, and also it's very interesting how they really helped the Israeli energy transition process with their amazing product. Now we are going to different sectors, and one of them is mobility. So the government has plans. One plan is all private vehicle has to be 100% electric by 2050. Also the vehicles up to 3.5 tons, they have to be use CNG, it's compressed natural gas, and also electric. It's very important that the government try to shift from the public transportation to create a sustainable transportation system. So they say that the buses has to be 75% of the bus has to be electric, and the rest has to run on natural gas. Here you can see a plan what they are thinking to reach. Like a full electric car was like 2010 19, it's was 10%, and we can see it's like every year it's like 10%. Meanwhile, there is they estimate like in 2023 there will be a huge increase on full electric car, but already now we can see that it's more than 20% as Tesla arrived to Israel. Other sectors, we have to talk about hydrogen and power to X. As everything, it's in Israel, this sector is also dominating by private sector, and they are the main driver, and the government only support R&D. Our sister center, I usually call it that's the science center. We had research on hydrogen and how it could be part in the transportation system. This is the new trend today when we talk about green hydrogen. that how we can develop hydrogen or product with solar energy or other renewable energy, and then be thinking to use it for industry, for transportation, and also if we have a chance to produce more, we could ship to Europe and help them to decarbonize their society and industry. The PTX, power to X, and hydrogen, it's very, very new in Israel. There are basic research today. Really, the researchers and companies, they started to develop these technologies. It's very new, and hopefully it will be also successful. Okay, carbon capture storage. It's we all know that the aim of this carbon capture storage to take out from the carbon dioxide, mainly from the air, and store under the ground. We see some in the north, in I think one of the Scandinavian country, where they start to operate this kind of technology. And but here in Israel, no carbon capture storage are currently in place, only studied. It's being studied, and it's there is a wish to use this technology, but we don't know the cost, we don't know the environmental impact of it, and also who will pay for it, and how we can implement here in the country. Also, we have some research on it, like thinking like salinate aquifers with the geological section in northern Negev. It's a kind of desert place, and they things that geological area could be serve as a future carbon capture storage, but still it's they are studying it. Okay, one moment. The necessary steps to decarbonize our system is I collected few things. I usually say the most important things is citizen involvement in the renewable energy transition. I showed the graphs, and also the behind the numbers, that without educating the people, without to help them to understand what are the benefits if they involve in the energy transition, it cannot be a successful energy transition. To have to support renewable energy transition, the government has to bring up a new tax reform, which includes feed-in tariff. It will include auctions. It will include like tax deduction, all the small things which could also help the people to feel the benefits of the renewable energy. In Israel, we have to upgrade the grid infrastructure. Those infrastructure are not good for renewable energy because they are old, and B, those are working with only this old power generation system, and for the renewables we need other grid system. We also, Israel has to change their view, because still it's all the energy transition, the debate, discussion, it's mainly limited to power sector. And Israel, it's not really discussing about coupling between end user sectors, which is crucial if Israel wants to do a successful energy transition. And the last, but the not least important things, that Israel power sector is considered to be a conventional power sector because, as I showed the map, we have mainly like gas and gas/coal power plant, and those are like mainly supply side system, and they don't really follow the demand side, which means that, for example, when we are at home during the night, obviously we need different amount of energy when we are not at home. And this is the household, but obviously the industry needs more energy during the day when people are working. So a demand side system would analyze these kind of necessities and then provide energy based on their demand. And I want you to, in the next slides is a picture, and I want you to try to ask questions, because it's very I put together the whole picture what's going on in Israel, but you know, it's very hard if you have question, it will be easy to answer. Then I give a overall overview, but I would like if you can give some question and I will answer to you. Okay.
Does anybody have any questions? Yes, Luca.
Hello, I am Luca Garibashvili from Georgia. I have a question regarding storage and the community involvement in storage. You mentioned that you have an 800 megawatt pump storage in the northern Israel. Well, was there any opposition from the community when you were installing it? It's a large installation, as I see. So
there is nothing opposition now, only from the citizen, because it's very far from the cities. This is one. Obviously, some NGO, green NGO, they are against it, but from the citizen side, like me as a Jozsef, I didn't have, and we didn't go there to protest. Only the and when we talk about like opposite, how they protest against these kind of facilities, it's also interesting what the survey showed, but that they don't really know anything about renewable energy technologies and their impact on their life and impact on environment. And that's why I said that the education, it's crucial. Without them, we cannot do successful energy transition.
thank you. And I have a second question also relating to the grid system of Israel. We in Georgia have a bit of a problem with this. Generation is in the west and consumption is the east. So there is some asymmetry in the country. Is there a similar problem in Israel? And perhaps how did you solve this problem?
We have, for example, and that's why, good question, because we don't have asymmetric if you see the old traditional power generation. Like when we talk about gas and coal, it's very good. Everything is good well. But when we talk about renewable energy, it's problem, because in the south region where we are located, we are almost approach 100% renewable energy, and everything is going to the grid. So the government, the Israeli Electricity Corporation, they are afraid that the system will collapse. And that's why they put a cap, and we cannot add more renewable energy sources on the system from the south. And we have this asymmetric, because in the center and the north, there is not real energy production, but because in the south, the desert, it's give a huge opportunity for Israel, for the region to produce huge amount of solar electricity. By the solar, it creates asymmetric. But I think you will have also do it from the Eilat organization, and she will give for you so many interesting insight about these not only asymmetric, but how the region tried to be the leader of Israeli energy transition. And for example, we are doing now storage project in the south, and also microgrid, which we believe that this asymmetric problem can solve with those things.
Thank you.
Thank you. Does anybody else have any questions or comments? Yesterday, you guys wanted to know a bit about storage. Any questions about that now, besides Luca's question? Thank you for that, Luca, by the way. Maybe not. Okay. Jozsef, do you have anything else?
No. If you have any question, I'm here, and you can write to me. And please reach me out. I'm here, and I'm really. If you have question now, please ask, because that's why we are here to answer all the questions. So I will be here after.
Yes, Gordana.
Please.
You're on mute.
We don't.
Sorry. Thank you very much for your very interesting presentation. And do you have any experience with lithium battery storage? Because we have environmental issues in Serbia regarding lithium at the moment.
I read about your problem and the huge protest nowadays in Serbia about the lithium. Well, we are putting some lithium batteries in the kibbutzim. It's a small, I wouldn't call it a village, but it's a small community. And there we're trying to put, but because it's so new, we don't have any concern and any environment. We don't feel any environmental problem with them. And we don't have like mining issue, because we don't have the lithium. But I know, and I following your country, and it's very interesting how you went to the street and do this protest against the lithium mining. Am I right?
Yes, mining of lithium. And for the first, we think it was a great chance for Serbia, but situation is changing day by day, and we have very problem at the moment with mining of lithium.
I was in Gordana. I was in before COVID. I spent many time in Balkan, in Serbia, and also in Bosnia Herzegovina, because we worked on enlargement process and also energy transition in the region, and we saw that many Chinese companies are going there, and they don't promote energy transition. They promote coal, a
Yes.
lot of coal, and which I surprised. And also I went to Montenegro, I think, where there was the debate on this train, which was financed by Chinese government, and the country went down because they cannot pay it. Do you think that the Chinese government wants to, or are they involved in the lithium mining project?
I don't know. We have problem with Rio Tinto as a company in the public. It is not general stuff of our government, but there is different informations in the public at this moment, and we try to solve this situation. Thank you.
You're welcome. I don't know for your countries here, you are here, that, for example, the energy efficiency, the role in the decarbonize the society, what is it? Because for us, it's thank you. It's not really crucial things to focusing on energy efficiency, but I know in Europe it's very important.
Thank you.
Thank you, Gordana. Oleg put a link in the chat about the protests in Serbia against the lithium
Yes,
mining.
I see.
Yes.
I see. Yes, thank you.
Does anybody else have any questions or comments or examples from your own countries? We're here to learn from each other, people. Okay, I guess not. Thank you very much, Jozsef. Do you have any last words to say on the topic?
Yes, so when you go home, don't forget that technology is one thing that can help the energy transition, but you have to be as a citizen active and be part of the energy transition, because without you, it won't be a successful story.
Thank you very much. Later today, I will send everybody a link to a video. I would like you to watch it before tomorrow's session. It's not very long. And tomorrow this video is like a virtual tour of our off-the-grid village that we have here at the Arava Institute. And tomorrow you'll be meeting the park manager, and you can ask questions about the different off-the-grid technologies that we have here, that we trial and that we develop here. And I think we're also going to meet with Suleiman again tomorrow before you submit your projects on Tuesday. So if you have any questions about your projects, please have them ready for tomorrow. Thank you very much, everybody. And thank you, Jozsef. And I'll see everybody tomorrow. Same time, same place.
Thank you.
Bye.
The opportunity. Bye. Enjoy.
Bye.
Bye.
Goodbye.